Hello everyone, and thanks once again for joining us this time for Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, the fire danger graphic here. A little bit higher here in the upper Yukon Valley from yesterday, but nothing like it was on Friday. But still, sunshine temperatures, some areas rising in the lower 70s, but not a lot of wind up there. So just a slight increase from what you had yesterday. And then back to the west here, areas of high fire danger, Seward Peninsula, and a little bit to the east here near the Yukon River, and then back up along the northwest coast and Noatak Valley areas, areas of high fire danger. Otherwise, pretty good everywhere else in the state, including the southeast coast. And from there, looking at satellite imagery, and got a system here associated with the upper level low and a surface low is now finally starting to, after being stationary for a day or so, starting to move northeastward here. We've had a couple of systems come through the southeast coast and also affect the southeast interior with some actually fairly decent rainfall amounts occurring in the last 12 hours over the eastern Copper River Basin and really from the Wrangell Mountains northward up to the eastern Alaska Range. And anyway, the first front came through just a weak trough here right there and continues to dissipate. Another one came up and is dying along the southeast coast. That brought areas of light rain and cloudy skies to the Panhandle today, and a little bit better one here forming off to the southwest associated with the main upper level low, and that should bring heavier rainfall amounts in than the previous two did to the Panhandle. Otherwise, cloudy skies, mostly cloudy skies with areas of light rain, sprinkles or showers here. Along the North Gulf Coast, Valdez picked about 1,300 in the last 12 hours, and Seward about the same, more or less, but pretty light rainfall amounts until you get into Kamishak Bay, a couple locations at around 1/4 of an inch, and rain starting to move back into Kodiak. Otherwise, scattered showers, or actually some rain along the south coast of the Alaska Peninsula, but amounts have been pretty light. Sunshine up over the northern Bering Sea, the Chukchi Sea again, as well as much of the northern interior areas. We had some clouds along the eastern Boulevard Sea coast, but they were the VFR clouds, about 4,000 to 5,000 foot bases there. And fog bank here just south of St. Lawrence Island comes southward. Beginning to see some clearing around the Pribilofs here this afternoon after some areas of showers and light rain earlier on. Then a little bit of moisture shifting on down into the eastern or the central Aleutians, Adak and Atka, for cloudy skies and occasional light showers, fog in those areas, and then again breaking out towards Shimia. And a few isolated showers around the Fox Islands there, especially on Alaska. You can see some breaks off to your northeast that may slip on in tonight. Otherwise, rolling this through again, you can see, really, if I get out of the way, the system advancing up to the northeast. Again, here's the first one that went through yesterday. The other one came in last night and stalled along the Panhandle and really weakening out today. And then this one's a little stronger. Should bring heavier rain in later tonight and tomorrow. Otherwise, isolated thunderstorms breaking out here over the upper Tanana Valley, really over toward the border, and really isolated strikes at least into mid-afternoon here, extending along this trough axis off to the southwest, with showers falling in the southwest interior, Kuskokwim Valley. Aniak picked up, I think, 1/10 or 1/1500 of an inch of precipitation today. And again, southern Kenai Peninsula, some light showers, mostly cloudy skies back into the Togiak Bay area. And then you start breaking out here actually over the Yukon Delta, and a few breaks along the coast of the Kuskokwim Delta as well, but you can see mostly clear skies out here. A few isolated showers drifting down toward the, well, actually one leaving the Pribilofs. You may see a few more showers drift in this evening, or maybe not, but good clearing up here to the north. And this trough just coming to toward, or moving eastward, actually is going to drop southward, and that'll bring an area of precipitation. I've got it there as rain, but could possibly be in the form of snow as it makes landfall on the Arctic coast there. possibly into the Brooks Range. Freezing levels, though, don't really get much below 2,000 feet with this feature. So whatever precipitation associated with it will be quite light, but they'll definitely make for a change from just the cloudy skies today to lower clouds and maybe some fog and definitely lower flying conditions. Otherwise, not too bad here over the remainder of the northern interior areas, and some moderate showers continue after Nebezna picked up about 2/3 of an inch of rain, and Chisana had about 6/10 of an inch of rain in the 12-hour period ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon. So pretty good rainfall amounts, but that'll end here over the eastern Copper River Basin, tend to continue along the Alaska Range. Only about 1/10 of an inch had gotten north of the mountains as of this afternoon over toward Tok and then to the border there. But again, scattered showers in the Kuskokwim Valley, western Alaska Range, a break here, Cook Inlet, and then this moisture brings rain back to Kodiak Island, and definitely rain pushing in across all the southeast coast tonight, later tonight, and into early tomorrow morning. With the west out here, high pressure there over the southwest Bering Sea and the Aleutians, with the center just southwest of Shimianatu, really dominating the entire Bering Sea. Really light northerly wind flow on the eastern side of that feature. Areas of clearing in there, especially as it's been up here to the north. And then as that comes southward, picks up more moisture, and then you get clouds, drizzle, areas of fog, kind of hit and miss, or more miss than hit here. But they hit the Adak-Atka area today, and vulnerable there on the north side of the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutian areas. Isolated showers over the southwest mountains. And then for tomorrow, looks like low pressure here, a thermal low, develops, cuts off into a center there. So look for some afternoon thunderstorm activity again, either side of that low and along on either side of a trough extending eastward there into Canada. But looks like nothing south or east of the Alaska Range, and probably even the Copper River Basin. Maybe the Alaska Range might see some thunderstorm activity. Otherwise, some rain here over the southeast Copper River Basin, and rain could be moderate at times. There for the Panhandle as that front slowly moves eastward. Then the outlook for Tuesday, that system kicks off to the northeast here, and another weak wave, this really weak. That'll bring a chance of rain or increase the rain and fog, warm front type weather into the southern southeast coast. It'll be a little more showery up to the north, but generally cloudy across all of the Panhandle. Look for some clearing, though, along the North Gulf Coast and the Kenai Peninsula, maybe Kodiak with some showers just to your west. Isolated thunderstorms scattered around just about all the southern interior again, but mostly either the west, north, and east side of the Alaska Range, and just partly sunny skies, isolated showers in south central Alaska, Copper River Basin, Prince William Sound. Another sunny day for the northern half of the state. And temperatures, lows tonight, 40s and 50s, highs in the lower 70s. And about the same for the Tuesday morning lows, afternoon highs on Tuesday, lower 70s.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Monday morning flying weather graphic here, the significant weather chart showing IFR Aleutians into the southern Bering Sea, right up to, say, St. George Island. VFR here, northern Bering Sea, southwest coast, right on up into the Chukchi Sea, western Arctic coast, and then in across the interior with some areas of marginal VFR along the Alaska Range, a little more widespread. In fact, IFR here starting, say, for the Wrangell Mountains, and marginal VFR, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound from the Kenai Peninsula eastward there to the Panhandle with IFR over toward the border. And then for the afternoon, that IFR pretty much vanishes here over toward the border, except down south towards Stewart and Hyder. And some IFR now up along the eastern North Gulf Coast on down to near or just south of Elfin Cove. And marginal VFR mainly east side of Kodiak Island, VFR in the interior, and IFR hanging off the central and eastern Arctic coast. And good VFR again, Chukchi Sea into the northern Bering, St. Lawrence Island, right on down into Bristol Bay, and then the Pribilofs are right on the edge tomorrow afternoon, and then IFR south central Bering and the central Aleutians. And for Tuesday morning, again, about what we saw for Monday morning here, IFR, central Aleutians and southern Bering Sea, eastward to almost toward False Pass, and again, near the Pribilofs, otherwise VFR up to the north, into the interior, IFR eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and again some IFR possible along the eastern border of the Panhandle. And then for Tuesday afternoon, marginal VFR there, all of the southeast coast, and up into the southeast interior here, right up to the Alaska range, but holding VFR for Cook Inlet, probably the Matanuska and most of the Susitna Valley. Marginal VFR Kodiak, Kenai Peninsula, and Prince William Sound, all marginal. And again, this area of IFR for the central Aleutians northward a ways into the Bering Sea. It looks like the Pribilofs may be VFR for the afternoon. And for the passes, Anaktuvuk, both Anaktuvuk and Atigun starting out on the marginal side Monday morning, becoming VFR, probably before noontime. Lake Clark and Merrill, pessimistically, marginal VFR, but it'll probably be kind of a back and forth thing, marginal to VFR. It'll be really close, so I'll say marginal at this point. Same forecast for rainy, kind of marginal there at times. And for windy though, VFR. Chance of marginal VFR showing up maybe late in the afternoon, depending on how far west the convection gets. And for Isabel, marginal VFR becoming VFR. And same forecast for Mentesta. Marginal conditions become VFR throughout the day. And Tanita, VFR the entire day. Portage, marginal becoming VFR by late morning. And for Chilkoot and White, IFR gradually becoming marginal. For the freezing levels, another push of chillier air coming down. So that's got the 2,000-foot freezing level there along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. And then at the surface tomorrow morning, right along most of the Arctic coast. And then back to 8,000 feet here up over the upper Yukon Valley. Back on out to the west, and then slightly cooler here down toward the North Gulf Coast and into the Gulf of Alaska. About 6,000 feet and 6,000 to 8,000 for the Panhandle. And then gradually warming up to 10,000 feet over the far western Bering. And for the icing, with the convection here, could be some areas of light to isolated considerable moderate icing in this area. It'd be mixed icing there, and to a certain extent here on the eastern North Gulf Coast. Heavier icing, though, of the rime variety above 7,000 feet, pushing in to the southern southeast coast. Taking a look at the jet stream, upper level lows now starting to pull northeastward and will actually end up crossing the Panhandle. It should be about this position tomorrow, and then tomorrow night and Tuesday it'll slide across the southeast coast. Good southwest jet coming in, plenty of moisture, so look for some more rain over the southeast coast. Big ridge here over the Bering Sea, and north to northeast flow about 50 to 60 knots coming down over the western interior. And for 9,000 feet, we've got northerlies, not too bad, 10 to maybe 20 knots out over the Aleutians, really light western Aleutians. And maybe 25 there, 20 to 25, Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula area, and 15 to maybe 25 over the southern Panhandle, 3,000 feet, looking something like this. Again, low south of Kodiak Island, wave scooting in toward the Panhandle, but light winds with that, wind field mostly to the south at this elevation, and light winds southern Alaska, and 15 to 20 here in the northwest, and then 10 to 20 or 25 there over the Aleutians, eastern Aleutians. Turbulence, light to isolated moderate chop, Kodiak Island, Alaska Peninsula, and up over the northwest there.
When you think of a national park, you probably envision wide open natural spaces undisturbed by human activity. There are indeed such places, but even in some of the most remote areas of a place like Kenai Fjords National Park in Alaska, the mark of man is present. Marine debris is a menace to the farthest reaches of our globe, and even designated national park lands are not immune. In the summer of 2009, the Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance, a grassroots conservation organization based in Seward, Alaska, decided to do something about the marine debris fouling the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park. Marine debris coordinator Tim Johnson had first-hand experience with the issue.
The summer before, my wife and I, Michelle, had done a paddle from Seward, sea kayak paddle from Seward to Homer. Really, our eyes were open to some areas that we didn't realize there was so much accumulation. It was very deceiving up front. You couldn't really get a feel for the extent and impact of it. You've got this nice high tide line that's quite pristine, and you really don't get a picture for the impact, the amount of debris in that area until you get behind those storm berms. You get back into the lagoons and the vegetation around those lagoons. And then you see the absolute extent back into that veg and how intertwined and enmeshed these decades of trash deposition. So we were just appalled by that and said we got to get something together on a larger scale.
The Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance is a local nonprofit community organization, and they have been instrumental in helping the Park Service obtain funding to get larger boats to help move the debris, and they get volunteer labor and organize the work trips. And so it's really a partnership between the Park Service and the community to help get out and really get a project done that in and of itself any one group couldn't do on their own.
Most of that trash was baggable. However, there were large items, huge, piles of hauser line, for example, that we just had to hoist up onto the boat.
The volunteers didn't just bag, haul, and hoist the garbage, but also carefully recorded what types of debris were collected.
In many ways, the debris itself is a resource. Archaeologists use middens, the trash heaps, as a way of analyzing past cultures. And in one sense, marine debris is a form of a midden. It's a trash heap that left for the future would be something that people could use to analyze our culture. It may not say the best things about our culture or everything that we want, but we need to be able to document what we've done so that we can preserve that legacy, make sure that we as a society don't forget what we've been doing.
We had two larger categories of marine debris that we picked up. Commercial fishing means like, say, gill nets, large hauser lines, anything that would be associated with more of a commercial fishing scale. And then the second category was more recreational fishing and household, which would be general plastics, things like that. So we had about a 75% of the commercial fishing marine debris element, and about 25% of the recreational and household further out the bay. And we had the exact opposite the closer we got to Seward. Within the bay, it was about 25% commercial fishing versus 75% recreational fishing and household.
The trash is not just unsightly for park visitors, but also poses threats to wildlife and marine habitat.
Really one of the larger issues now that you go to this plastic that can really get into the food web and affect the food web differently than something like glass.
These substances, for instance, all these polystyrene blocks that are breaking down into all these little crumbly bits are further breaking down on a microscopic level, and how much of an impact that has, in this ecosystem is yet to be determined, but I think it's got pretty high potential.
Well known that sea turtles will eat plastic bags floating in the water. They look like jellyfish to a sea turtle, and obviously a plastic bag doesn't go well in the digestive system of a turtle. Albatross will see small pieces of plastic floating on the surface and think they're small fish and other food sources and eat that in their stomachs, especially in some of the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. They'll find dead albatross that have starved to death with a full stomach, and it's full of pieces of plastic.
We're affecting our local areas this way, but we need to be thinking about it from more of a state and a global, international scale. And most importantly, to try and focus on prevention of it coming in the first place. Because we're just going to see this continuing, to build up on our beaches unless we're able to get a little bit more of an approach on prevention on the front end.
Marine debris is really a global problem, in all the oceans, and there are many different sources. Global shipping is one. Fishing debris from commercial fishing, recreational boating activity, activity on land, stuff blowing off land, washing down streams, people just throwing stuff on the shore.
Though the problem can seem overwhelming, Johnson remains upbeat about making a positive difference.
No, you gotta start locally. You gotta take control of what you can do, and make something with that, and try and move on from there.
Overall, more than 9 tons of debris was removed from the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park and transported back to Seward to be deposited in a landfill.
People gave a lot to the project in order to make it happen. That was awesome. One of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. Being able to put that large of a group of volunteers together, dedicated volunteers to put that much effort and give that much time and pull all the different agencies together to see it all happen was incredible. It was incredible. Yeah, very fulfilling experience.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis, not much different from the last couple of days. The trend out here, there's been a slight shift southward, the ice shifting westward and eastward, and in some cases just spinning around in gyres or small eddies. Anyway, but the overall shift has been slowly to the south, and really not much change out here except things shifting around with depending on which way the wind's blowing and the currents, and that's expected to continue for the next 4 or 5 days with not much change here and maybe a little bit farther south over here in the Beaufort Sea. And for the southeast coast, winds tomorrow, southwest 10 to 15 on the south coast, seas 7 to 8 feet, and south-southwest 10 to 15 on the north coast with seas at 7 feet. Lynn Canal, south 20 knots, Stevens Passage south at 10 with 2-foot seas, and Clarence Strait looking southeast at about 20 knots with 4-foot seas. And then for Clarence Strait the next day, Tuesday, south 15 knots, 3-foot seas, southeast 15 for Stevens Passage, and a little bit of an increase, small craft advisory winds, especially in the afternoon for Lynn Canal, southerlies at 25 knots, south coast, southwest 15 to 20, and really light up there on the north coast, 5 to 10 knots from the southwest. Prince William Sound, we've got northeast 15 in the forecast tomorrow with seas only 2 feet, southeast 20 at 7-foot seas for the eastern North Gulf Coast, the west side here, northeast 20 knots, 7 to 8-foot seas. That includes the Barren Islands, northwest at 15 for Kamishak Bay, light northeast breeze for Cook Inlet. And for Tuesday, south 15 knots here for the inlet with southeast 15 for Kamishak Bay, and southerlies at about 10 knots there for the Barren Islands, and kind of a variable wind pattern, call it light and variable there for the North Gulf Coast area. They're 10 knots, seas 5 to 6 feet, light northeast breeze in Prince William Sound. For Kodiak Island, north to northeast there, in those marine zones at about 25 knots, good for small craft advisories, 8 to 9-foot seas, and north 25 knots extends down to Castle Cape from Sitkinak, and then northwest 15 for the peninsula, and northwest at 10 for Bristol Bay. Outlook for Tuesday, Bristol Bay southwest at 15 knots, southwest at 10, Castle Cape to Sitkinak, west winds 15 across the peninsula, and pretty light winds for Kodiak Island, west-southwest, depending on where you are, at 10 knots with seas 3 to 6 feet. And for the Fox Islands tomorrow, Unimak Island, northwest 20 knots, seas 4 to 5 feet, and then Unimak Island to a little bit to the west, north 15, north 10 to 15, another light wind day for Adak and Atka, northwest 15, areas west of Adak to Shemya. And for Tuesday, next front pushing in here starts to kick the winds up a little bit, at least they change to south, come up to about 20 knots. And then otherwise light winds for the remainder of the Aleutians here, 10 knots over to Atka, and then 15 to 20 knots for the Fox Islands from a westerly direction, and those seas only 4 to 5 feet. For the southwest coast, north to northwest winds, 20 knots, about covers it tomorrow with 4-foot seas, northwest 15 there for the Pribilofs, and north 15 for St. Matthew Island. Small craft advisories for St. Lawrence Island, northwest at 25, and north winds at 20 knots here for the area north of Nunivak Island. And then for Tuesday, Norton Sound, light northeast breeze there, north 20 for St. Lawrence Island, northwest or west-northwest 15 for the southwest coast, Bering Sea, Pribilof, St. Matthew Island, west at 15. Beaufort Sea, northeast 15 on the east side there, light wet easterlies there on the central coast at about 10 knots, then 20 knot winds here for the western coast all the way down to Wales, from a more northerly direction from Thompson or Cape Thompson to Wales, and then northeast 15 on Tuesday with 20 knot winds from Cape Thompson, turn easterly on the west side here, and then light variable for the central and east coast, but generally out of the east here, say from Prudhoe Bay on over to Demarcation Point, but only at 10 knots. And for tonight's weather, another batch of rain coming in with this system into the southeast coast, and that'll start to affect the North Gulf Coast as well, the outer coastline, southern Kenai Peninsula, Kodiak definitely, and then diminishing showers, but some moderate showers lingering, especially this evening here for the northern and eastern Alaska Range. Some of that might spill into the 40-mile country or north of the Alaska Range, but not too far, otherwise fair, and then more rain for the Panhandle.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.